In Israel, just minutes ago, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about the ongoing conflict in Gaza and how soon the operation might end. For full coverage of the ongoing situation, we turn to CCTV's Roe Ruttenberg in Tel Aviv with the latest from Israel, and to CCTV's Noor Hazarin in Gaza. We're going to begin in Tel Aviv. Roe?
Indeed, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu using some very strong language in that press conference, very defiant following 36 hours of intense fighting in Gaza. We know that some troops have began withdrawing. We believe this is because, according to security sources, Israel believes that it's about 24 hours away from completing the destruction, or what it's referring to, the decommissioning of what it's called terror tunnels, a network of underground passageways leading from Gaza into Israel that Israel says was designed in order to penetrate into Israel to commit killings and abductions of Israeli civilians. Israel also believes that that is the type of tunnels that was used to attack their soldiers on Friday night, which Israel says was the reason for the ceasefire breaking. Netanyahu saying that even still, once the tunnels are completely destroyed, Israel will continue fulfilling what he promised, which is restoring long-term quiet to southern Israel. That basically means that Israel will continue its operations to ensure that there are no more rocket strikes on southern Israel. Israel believes that Hamas and Islamic Jihad had about 10,000 rockets going into this offensive. They believe, now we're hearing from sources within the military community, that about 7,000 of those have been destroyed. So this could stretch on for a little bit longer, even though we've seen some of these troops start to pull out. Israel also telling residents of Gaza that they can return to some areas of the Gaza Strip that were evacuated, including Beit Lahia, perhaps an indication that some of the offensive in those areas is winding down. And also we're hearing from sources close to Netanyahu that he has told the Obama administration, quote, not to second guess me again on Hamas. So some very strong words, not just here, but also across the sea directed towards Washington. A very frustrated Netanyahu here.
Yeah, Roe, some very powerful words, as you just talked about. And he says Israeli defense forces have neutralized the majority of the tunnels Hamas has built, and it's going to regroup. Is this what people in Israel wanted to hear? Are people getting tired of fighting there? They don't want to go through this every 2 or 3 years. What's the temperature there?
Well, the tunnels are quite separate than what the rockets are. The tunnels came as a surprise to much of the Israeli public, even though we understand that the military community knew about them back in July of 2013 and may have had some plans to sort of tackle those. Separately, there are the rockets, which have been a disturbance and, in fact, a source of frustration and some say terror to the Israeli public, a nuisance, and many Israelis want to see those dealt with. Following what Israel says was the abduction of that soldier, the second lieutenant, on Friday morning, many Israelis believe that it is time to strike a firm blow to Hamas to defeat the organization, what they believe to be a terrorist operation there in Gaza, threatening Israel's constant security and indeed a constant threat to Israel that must be dealt with immediately. It seems that the Prime Minister is also having tension within his own parliament as leaders representing factions that are further to the political right want to see him more than just destroy those tunnels and perhaps bring temporary quiet for 1 year or 2 years, but they want to see Hamas dealt with completely. And we've heard some very strong language coming from Israelis on the streets following these incidents. At the same time, there is a very small minority of activists here who are protesting against the Gaza operation. We know that in Tel Aviv on Saturday night, 7 of them, at least 7, were arrested in a protest here in Tel Aviv. So a bit of a split opinion. All of this, of course, is happening as a delegation from the PLO arrived in Cairo for additional ceasefire talks. There is a Hamas representative from that delegation, Osama Abu Marzouk, who is the Hamas representative in Cairo. Hamas says its delegates from Gaza were unable to travel due to security reasons. Israel was supposed to go to Cairo for additional talks on Friday. Those got canceled, and Netanyahu saying on Saturday that Israel will not be sending a delegate, that there's no reason to have these ceasefire talks when Hamas, he says, is not a partner for a ceasefire.
Roe, thanks very much. A very thorough report from the area.